In November of 2023, the Swell Pod took a 10-day journey across 5 states, traveling 3,580 miles with one challenge in mind.
And that challenge was to interview 100 pleasantly rebellious humans to uncover deep truths about what it takes to create something that has never existed before, challenge the status quo, maybe even change the world.
This is the Kiln Road Trip, created and produced by the Swell Pod.
In partnership with Kiln, Moterra Camper Vans, and sponsored by Taurus.
I'm Spencer McKeown.
And I'm Josh Taylor, and together we're the co-hosts of the Swell Pod and your guides on the Kiln Road Trip. Follow along on the journey.
Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, follow the Swell Pod on social media, and subscribe to your YouTube channel at, you guessed it, the Swell Pod.
This is interview 63 of the Kiln Road Trip, and today we're at Kiln Meridian in Idaho talking with Laura Tully. Laura is a personal wardrobe stylist where she provides personal wardrobe styling dedicated to showing you how to look and feel great in what you wear every day. It's you at your best. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you enjoy.
Laura, welcome to the Swell Pod, which is part of the Kiln Road Trip that we're doing this weekend. And thank you for being part of the 100 people.
So cool. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. So could you give us a quick intro on your name and what you do and why you're so passionate about it?
My name is Laura Tully, and I'm a personal wardrobe stylist. And I would say...
Oh, no.
That's cool.
You are not being judged.
Here we are.
I feel it a little. I'm just kidding.
I would say a big part of what I do is just showing clients how they can have this intentional ownership of how they clothe their bodies and how that can be this like really deliberate way of showing up as like the best version of who you want to be. And it's kind of crazy because I feel like when I started my business, it was more about like stuff and like, oh, you're so cute, and then it kind of morphed into like something a little bit more meaningful about how people see themselves and how you kind of manage the experience of like, well, I have to dress myself every day usually right, and how can I make it more deliberate?
I have like a million questions.
I know. A lot of things just raced through my mind. It's the weirdest thing when you were starting talking about that. But yeah,
I'd love to know, and maybe this is too early to ask this question, but like, where does this usually start when you work with somebody? Does it start with kind of really truly understanding, I guess, their persona, their identity, who they are, and help me understand that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I think like one of the core parts of it is like me really seeing the client for who they are. Like, I think sometimes with clothing, like we're just like, oh, this is fine, this works, and it'll do. And I think where I try to really make a huge difference is like seeing them for who they are. And intuitively, that's like just like something that I'm able to do. Like I could see like I know what blazer is gonna look amazing on you, or what colors I want on you.
Yeah.
And I think my having that like perspective, then I bring them along with me so they can explore that process of like how I see them, so they can see themselves fully.
Yeah.
And it's really neat because I think like, with clothing and personal styling, it can seem a little like superficial, and it's so much deeper than that, And I think like it's funny that you even asked me that question because the client I worked with yesterday, she's this like cool, eclectic, vibrant New Yorker with tons of energy, and like, she's shifted like into this new role, and I was like, you're feeling this angst because you're trying to stifle all that goodness, and like that's not what this is about.
Let that goodness out.
Yeah, we got to get that goodness out.
Yeah.
And so like I utilized her clothing and showed her how to like make her show up, and that she doesn't have to like, oh, I'm in this new role, so I got to pretend to be this type of person.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh my gosh, this is so much more freeing,
Do people have a hard time like obviously, so they're coming to you, they want the help,
Mhm.
but at the same time, it can be probably pretty difficult, like maybe taking some of the suggestions, like, well, this doesn't feel, like maybe this doesn't feel like me, or nah, I wouldn't normally wear something like that. Like,
Yeah.
how do you experience that? And then how do you help people kind of get through that?
Yeah. I mean, we talk about it,
Yeah.
like there's going to be, I think, feeling like, oh, I don't know if I can wear this. I don't know if this is me. I think that's part of growth, right?
Yeah.
Like being able to like come face forward with like things that you don't feel like will serve you. But then that's where I feel like I can go, well, I'll show you why this works. Because I think it takes the nuance out of it. It's like, oh my gosh, I didn't know like a 9-inch rise pant with a crop length is like loving on me, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think getting a little bit more specific about like why something is going to look amazing on you, as opposed to like, I don't know, I've never tried this before. This is not very comfortable for me. Just being able to be more intentional about the why behind it working, I feel like helps eliminate that. I don't know if I should try this.
Yeah.
And also there's building trust, like clothes is so plentiful. I always tell clients, it's like, okay, let's move on. Let's try something else, Yeah.
That's amazing. I'll toss it over to you, Spencer.
Are you
I know you're
about
pretty
to-
passionate about
Well,
fashion.
I think you're fashion. Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yes,
don't
you
set
are.
that expectation.
You've got some good stories about creating your
I
own
do.
stuff.
Well, I thought you were about to ask Laura to roast you.
I do think it would be good. Like, I would love a couple recommendations by the time. Maybe we can end with the recommendations. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
Like just some thoughts that you might
Oh
have.
gosh, I don't know where to go. I would love to. So my mind went all over the place actually when you started talking, because I had 20 years ago. Well, I've been at American Express for 20 years until recently, and right at the start of that career, we had a lady called Annie Slowgrove, and I haven't even thought of her name like for a long, long time. But she does it's a very similar thing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about the clothes. I mean, it was about like seeing you for who you really are.
Yeah.
And it was very gifted at doing that. I don't know how. And I've got a question around this, which is, how do you really discover that? How long does it take? You meet a client first. Do you just go out for lunch with them? How do you start to uncover who they really are?
Yeah.
Or do you start with the clothes straight away? I don't know. What's your process?
I usually we usually talk on the phone and just I listen a lot and I ask a lot of questions, and when someone decides I need a personal stylist, can this be easier? Can I feel better in what I wear? I feel like I could show up more boldly or more in tune with who I feel like I am, but it's not really reflected. Like all those things, like I take in and I listen. And when I meet the client in person for the first time, after we decide like, okay, this is a good fit, we're going to work together. I know right away.
Really?
It's like this really weird, it's like
Intuition.
I see you and I see all the goodness that I want to put on you, And it's so interesting to me too, because like I'll like say to clients like, oh my gosh, I love your shoulders, or I'm highlighting these parts of their bodies that I'm just like, I want us to like wear these type of styles that really celebrate these assets of their body. And they're just like, I never thought of my shoulders that way. Or I didn't think I had great legs, or,
Wow.
So it's like, I'm seeing all of the parts of who they are that I want to celebrate through style, and then showing them what that looks like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it not even a Zoom call? Is it just audio for
It's
them?
just, yeah.
So you're just listening to not what they look like.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you see what they sound like, but that's a good thing. But then you kind of match that up when you meet them. Where's the disconnects between the strengths that you heard?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm putting words in. I'm waffling now about it.
What's
how?
No, I think we're probably about to ask the exact same question, but like, how did you find this passion? Where did this start?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
exactly what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because I feel like I've been in like the fashion industry forever, but I have a degree that has nothing to do with, I have like I grew up in Jamaica, Jamaican parents who are just like, you go and get a real job,
Yeah.
So I honestly didn't think like this was something I could do for a living.
Yeah.
And several years ago, I worked at like a corporate clothing retail store, part of management, switched into personal styling. And I was like, oh my gosh, this feels so good, you know, and I crushed it like with, you know, with clients and stuff. And my husband was just like, you should do this on your own. And so I was so afraid, of course, and scared, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go for it. And I had a few clients who were like, could you do this for me? And I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do this. So I saw that there was something there. And then I just went all in and explored it and never looked back.
So that's a great answer. And so this is not when you say, oh yeah, I found it. My dad was so stylish. He was unbelievable. He gave me all his fashion tips. But going back, like, did you just, what as a child, did you have interest in any of these areas? Like what were the kind of connecting points when you look back?
So it's really interesting because, you know, we grew up in a really tiny town in Jamaica. We lived in this little 1-bedroom house where we all shared the same room. And my mom worked many jobs. And one of them was a seamstress. So she sewed a lot of our clothing. Fabric was always like there. My dad was a shoemaker.
Really?
And they called him Shoey. That was his nickname.
Shoey.
And
that's a good brand name, that is.
Yeah. So I think from a young age, like I feel like my parents really expressed like to me like how you can really have a sense of ownership and how you clothe your body, no matter like where you grow up or where you live. You know, it's like putting some effort and meaning towards it, because you know, I think of like my mom sewing certain clothing for me and how special she made me feel having these like, you know, well-made pieces, you know, that she cared about the process of making for us. So
she made those clothes for you.
Yes. Yeah. For me and my sister and my brother. Yeah. And all of our uniforms for school. She made them. That's
amazing.
I know.
And that's that thrifty mindset of just, and the creative, but it's also got this creativity in there. You can do anything, create anything. Did your mom ever make you anything?
Did what?
Sew anything, your mom?
My mom? No, I don't think so. No, she wasn't into that stuff.
The only thing my mom ever made me, well, she did directing of road shows and like little skits and stuff. I was in Wizard of Oz, so she made me a lion outfit. I was a little lion, so I couldn't wear that to school, but she taught us how to use a sewing machine, which was we made denim jackets and denim out of jeans and stuff. And we had one of our guests actually. We should introduce
Trey.
We should introduce you to Trey.
Yeah.
In Utah, he plays for BYU basketball, but he goes home after the big games.
Beat the I think it was number 13 team in the nation. Went home and
he just started sewing his stuff, and he did it for Dwayne. Yeah, I'm gonna get the names wrong.
So he did a fashion show. I basically made a whole line of clothing.
Yeah.
Did a fashion show. The owner of the Jazz was there. You know, eventually kind of made its way to where Dwayne Wade, you know, it was wearing a piece of his clothing, posting it on Instagram, as well as, oh man, I can't remember all the names, but you know, a few basketball players, a few NFL players, and he's just like in college, like, you know, I'm trying to figure out my next step now. Wow. But yeah, he's finding a huge passion for it right now, which is kind of neat. But so what I
love that.
Yeah. What do you have? Anything that is particularly somewhat of an inspiration to you in your work, or any type of muse in terms of how you kind of choose various different pieces for people or anything like that?
It's the person.
Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. I mean, it really is like the person I'm working with. I feel like when I work with a client, like I'm their like biggest advocate. And I'm just like, I'm here for you to show up and look amazing in what you wear. And I like explore all of the ways I can like make that be seen, like visible through like the pieces that I pick. And it's really fun because like I didn't realize I do this, but it's like I see them and then I start shopping and like it's like a little puzzle. Like things are like kind of like floating and falling into place in my head, you know,
Really?
about what I want.
I love that.
You just see it.
Yes, I just
It's a
see
gift,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah.
I just see it. Yeah.
I don't see clothes like that.
Yeah. You know what's kind of cool too? I think that I just find this unexpected, I guess.
Yeah.
That from your, you know, the way that you work with clients, you know, like if I was to think about it, it's like, okay, well, you know, I might find a new set of wardrobe that helps me feel more like me and I can be confident going out into, but I mean, even just the fact that you're talking about, like, you see them and the things that make them awesome and great and stand out. Like, I like the shoulders, right? Like, I think you have incredible shoulders. So not only is it that you walk away, you know, after working with you, you know, not only with, you know, like a sense of style and wardrobe that kind of really matches who you are, but you also have this confidence in yourself and who you are and just your features in a way that maybe you didn't ever really understand or see in yourself. There's a really cool part of that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, completely. And I think, like, you know, I think sometimes we feel like that there needs to be like a Band-Aid towards feeling good about who we are. And I think sometimes what I try to do is just really be really deliberate about how I tell my clients, like, you can, you know, kind of pretend to feel good about who you are, but like actually exploring it is like a whole game changer. And it's not like a hack. It's not like, I mean, one of the biggest things I learned with doing my work was that I don't care how amazing an outfit is, like, if someone doesn't like feel like I deserve this, I'm worthy of this, like, then it's just another part of the loop, you know?
Yeah.
And that was like a huge shift for me in how I worked with clients, because you know, I would like, you know, I worked with a client where I was like shopping for her all the time, and she had like a pretty healthy budget, so you could buy all the things, all the amazing things, and I was like, oh my gosh, she's just not happy with like here, and like I'll never help her feel amazing in who she is until she explores that part of like how to get to that destination. And I can't like bypass it for her, you know? And I think that taught me a really important lesson about how I work with clients. Like, it wasn't like, you know, well, you just work with whoever and, you know, and make bank. It's more it's more, there's like a meaning towards it, because like I want them to have that like resolve. I want them to have that like, oh my gosh, I see myself, you know? And it's a cool, you know, transformation.
How do you then, just briefly, how did you deal with that situation? Did you just, I mean, because that could take some time, and then you're not I don't know, I'm going to say the wrong word now. You're not a therapist, or you're not a counselor, you can't. But how do you kind of get that right balance? And when you see that,
it can be challenging. And one of the things I've learned to do is like, I listen a lot, and I see how people, you know, clients will just words, things you say to yourself when you think no one is really listening. And I really pay attention to things like that. And for some clients, I'm like, okay, this person just needs like to her, you know, for us to have this like journey together so that she could see how freaking amazing she is. And then for others, I'm able to go, you know what, this is not something you're ready for yet. And that's okay. You know, like, I'm going to be here when you're ready to dive into celebrating like who you really are. And most clients are really receptive to that. They're sometimes taken aback.
Because you're kind of saying no thanks right now. You don't need me yet.
Which, trust me when I say, like, in the beginning when I started working, I was like yes to everyone, you know, and that, you know, when I worked with that particular client, it was like uncomfortable and a hard lesson to really understand. But ultimately, I knew that I want to bring a certain value to the work that I do, and I want them to feel like this matters, this is relevant, this is meaningful to me, and it's not just like, here's a cute outfit, bye, see you later kind of thing. So that was like a huge kind of shift in how I worked with clients.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, so man, I've got so many questions. I honestly
I
think I'll tell you what I want to know. I want to know how you measure this, like measure the success of it. Is it measurable? Is it just where a client goes, hey, I'm happy? I'm asking you because
you're asking me
because I can't ask Laura because then we've got no time left. So I'm just saying that's what the thought is like, how do you measure it?
It's such a personal thing though, right? You're working very close with it.
It's just when they're happy with what with.
And the things they say, like my client would just be like, I had this huge meeting today and not once did I think about what I was wearing because like she knew she was really showing up, and I think it gives people a lot of bandwidth. You're just not able to like, you no longer have to like worry about like, is this right? Does this feel good on me? Am I, when like I think about it as you walk into a room and you see someone for the first time and like you get to create that narrative, because people like judge you based on it's just part of like our culture, right? So I feel like so much of like how I see transformation happens with clients is just like their posture, how the words they say, just like our conversations and, or they'll send me a text like, I'm crushing it today, just like, really, really cool things like that.
It sounds like long-term relationships as well. This is not a kind of a quick in and out after a day or a week.
Yeah.
You have the advantage, I think, of over a period of time, if they have that I guess if they can, I'm going to say that this is going to sound negative now, if they can afford to continue, they want to work with you, but they can afford it. And that would have been my other question, but you're going to ask one of these killer questions, right? Well, that we always ask. It's like,
I think if I can, I think what we'll do, I'll just ask the question.
Go for it.
So we've been here for, 20 minutes, having conversations with us.
Yeah.
If you were to you don't have to tell us exactly what to do, but if you were to think, about Spencer and I, one or two things for us each individually to think about, with our own style.
With your own style?
Yeah.
Or what you saw. And
this is great. So it's really interesting because you're both like got this laid back, chill vibe. I mean, it's just like part of the atmosphere of who you both are, right? And so me coming in and saying like, I want you to be in this like, high-waisted, slim leg, it's not really reflective of who you are. I would actually love to see you in like more of that, like, it's like the urban wear styles would look really good on you.
Yeah.
So it's just like, a cool sweatshirt, and like if you're like meeting with a client with a blazer over it, and some like.
Before we get into the rest of the episode, we want to thank the partners and sponsors who made the Kiln Road Trip possible. The Kiln Road Trip is brought to you by Kiln. Kiln is a boutique co-working and flex office community with 13 locations in 6 states across the West, dedicated to providing innovative workspaces that empower your team to thrive. Whether you're a solo visionary or an enterprise-level team of up to 100, Kiln transcends being merely a place to work. It's a hub for learning and connecting with like-minded professionals that will make you and your team love where you work.
And if you haven't stepped foot inside a kiln yet, you really need to. On this road trip, we visited every single location, and trust us when we say once you see these beautifully designed spaces, meet the talented team, and connect with fellow members, you won't want to work anywhere else.
Locations include Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Oregon, California, and Arizona. And they're growing too, with multiple locations set to open in 2024.
Yeah, so be sure to check out the Kiln locations nearest you by booking a tour at kiln.com and answer Swell in the question, how did you hear about us? Once you complete the tour, you'll be entered into a competition where you could win a 1-year membership, their club membership at Kiln.
Yep, you heard that. That's kiln.com, book a tour, and be sure to mention Swell in the question, how did you hear about us?
The Kiln Road Trip is also brought to you by Moterra Campervans, a luxury campervan rental company for iconic road trips. Their top-of-the-line vans are available at 7 locations located near America's best outdoor adventure destinations. They have consistently earned the highest customer ratings in the industry, making Moterra Campervans your gateway to adventure without sacrificing on comfort or service.
That's true, and initially we wanted to take this journey in a 1960s VW bus, but thankfully we found Moterra instead. With 3 van options, we took the Pop Top Classic, which sleeps 4 and is best for those who want to maximize floor space and storage. This was critical for us because it needed to sleep the entire crew, we needed space to edit, and we were traveling with large amounts of equipment, luggage, and, other goodies that we picked up along the way.
And this van took us through all 3,580 miles of the trip. Super comfortable and sweet to drive.
And actually, Moterra offers fully planned itineraries if you'd rather leave the planning to someone else.
Visit gomoterra.com/swell. That's gomoterra.com/swell.
This episode is also brought to you by Taurus. Taurus is leading the charge in home energy storage. Taurus makes it easy to achieve energy independence and a greener tomorrow. The Taurus station provides everything you need to generate clean power, efficiently store electricity, and easily manage your energy use.
And installing a Taurus station offers plenty of benefits, including save money on your electricity bill,
also ensure energy security with backup power during outages,
reduce carbon emissions with renewables.
You can also automate EV charging and HVAC systems with 100% renewables.
And enjoy unrivaled system monitoring and support.
If you like the sound of those benefits, get a quote to build your Taurus station in less than 30 seconds. Super easy at taurus.co. That's TORUS.co. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Neat jeans and, maybe some like low profile vans or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a shot, and I'll post a picture of it and maybe tag you in
yes,
it.
do.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great.
I like that you're saying this because that would have been my comment. Is like, if you don't have a budget, if you can't afford it, your tips and tricks for us and anyone else out there that can't.
Yeah.
Well, they maybe assume they can't afford to work with someone permanently. Yeah. Your thoughts on me then?
Yeah.
And this trip is interesting because we're just trying to wear comfortable clothing, but I guess,
yes.
What are you seeing?
Yeah. So for you're more of like, it's more of like West Coast chill vibe, So it's like a good t-shirt, a good t-shirt, some like jogger pants, because I feel like that's something you will actually wear. But they have such nice styles now where you're like, that's a jogger pant, man.
Right.
That's a good looking pant, a linen shirt over it and your high tops, It's just good,
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, we can go.
I know.
Even
this
more.
is just starting.
Okay, but you have to put that on and do the same thing.
I'm going to try. Yeah. Right now, my son is the one that gives me. I love fashion, but I feel like I lost like time and to even look at it for like 15 years. I don't really like. I like bold stuff and bright colors and like I just don't feel like I have the time to do that. But yeah, my son's always like, here. I mean, these are his, and like he's like, I'll kit you out every day. Like,
I love that. How old is your son?
He's 16. He's 6'4", but he goes on these thrifting. We just did a road trip thrifting in Colorado, and so he'll like lay his clothes out and then he'll the night before. But I never think about that. But he's like, here, this is what you need to wear this week.
Okay. I love your son because that's so intentional, right?
Yeah, it is.
It really is, and I think people are like, oh, she looked, like he looks so pulled together. And I just want to do that. And it's like, well, there was a decision,
right?
Like it was like deliberate decisions to make to make that happen.
So you participate in a lot of Kiln activities. You're involved with Kiln in just different ways. I'm wondering, what are your thoughts on Kiln?
oh, this place is so great.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. I think, well, first of all, like aesthetic wise, you're just like, can I stay here? Can I take selfies here?
Yeah.
But I mean, beyond that, right? It's the, I think, especially as a solopreneur, like, you know, I work for myself. Community is everything. And I think what I love about Kiln is like their ability to foster pockets of community and have it like spread in different ways, where you feel like I can still be me and like learn so much about what else is happening and meet different people. And I've met so many different people here who do completely different things than I do, but it's really cool. We were talking about this a couple of days ago about like how like the tentacles of like how we work eventually connects in some ways with each other. So yeah, it's really awesome.
That's
like
cool.
What they've built here. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
And then I guess just to wrap things up, actually, Spencer, you want to ask that?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, we like to ask this question around what advice do you have for someone based on your experience if someone's trying to create something that never existed before, to create a movement. Now this is a tricky one. I mean, it could be the movement for the individual that's, you know, trying to just get along. And anyway, I'm going to stop there. So any advice? I'm trying to think of how you apply that from your world. But what have you learned around trying to create something that didn't exist?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I think one of the things I've learned through my journey is like embracing just kind of failing, and that failing and making mistakes is not necessarily about like your inability. It's really about your capacity, your willingness to try and take risk. And I think sometimes we think like when we are trying something that's new or never been done before, and that like that feeling like sits on your chest and you're like, I don't know if I should do this, you know? I think that is like the universe saying to you, yeah, you should. Like, let's get uncomfortable and see how you can like nurture this and have it like spread to other people, because it's worth it and it's important. And my dad always say, oh, what is the worst that can happen? And like, actually he wants me to answer that, you know? And I think practicing that, like, what's the worst that can happen? And sometimes like when you say it out loud, it's not as devastating as you think.
Yeah.
Like, and that repeatedly doing that builds something inside of you about like just taking chances. And if failure is a part of that whole journey, you know, of success.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Kiln Road Trip. Be sure to follow along on the rest of the journey, and you can do that in two ways. One, subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or maybe even watching on YouTube, and follow along on all of our social media platforms, whether you're on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or TikTok, at the Swell Pod. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.